The Marshfield Police Department avails themselves to us, and the chief isn't in today, so he sent his assistants here, the Assistant Chief Pat Zepps. Good morning.
Good morning.
And also Lieutenant Jody Garink. Good morning.
Hello.
So here we are, I guess, with all this snow already this time of the year, and I was remarking about how on Central Avenue, when I was sitting at a stoplight, and I stepped on the accelerator, and nothing happened. And I'm going, what? Did my motor quit? What happened here? But the tachometer goes, so it was just a mess out there. You guys must have been fairly busy with fender benders.
Yeah, we had a lot of crashes this week, for sure. Our guys are running all over the city with crashes.
And we've talked about this before, so I won't get into it. But today, with the cars being as expensive as they are to repair, the damage threshold doesn't take much. In order to get a police report.
Right. Yeah, we're writing a lot more police reports than we used to, that's for sure.
So this time of the year, you guys are out and about trying to stay on the road as well. And I saw a couple ambulances go by, and I thought to myself, well, even he didn't seem like he was going his usual breakneck speed here down the streets of Marshfield.
No, speed is very unforgiving, especially with road conditions the way that they've been here.
So this week, the talk of the town here is a threat at Marshfield High School, and I'll let you set it up, what you know about that and what happened.
Well, what we know is that some things have shown up written on some bathroom stalls. Earlier in the week, I think everybody's well aware that two individuals were arrested for writing something referencing a bomb threat. Well, lo and behold, just recently we had another threat that turned up on a bathroom wall, so that's what we know at this point. The second one, we're going to up presence in the school. That's been our MO. Putting the safety out there is extremely important. One of the challenges is people are asking us, what should we do? Do I send my child to school? And that's a really tough one for us to answer. All we can say as a department and a school district, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, but we have a great working relationship. We're really going to up the presence if we feel there's some legitimacy or something that we need to close a school. We can certainly recommend that. Ultimately, the school district will make that decision, but we're going to be in there. We're going to do everything we can to find out who's doing this and give the extra patrol. Now,
both these were at the high school?
Correct.
Okay. They were, from what I understand, you have some people, some young girls, a couple of them anyway, who were probably the perpetrators of the first incident?
Yeah, that's correct. Two 17-year-old females were arrested.
So what did they say? What was the threat? Can you disclose that at this point?
Yeah, it was something written on the bathroom wall referencing a bomb going off on a certain day this December, which I believe was the 18th.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other was just...
That was more of a vague school threat that, in looking at that one, it's almost hard to tell when exactly that was written or how long that's been there. I don't know that those are checked every day. They probably will be from here on out, but that was more of a vague threat referencing another type of incident that may happen.
There has been some comment on your Facebook page about the releasing of this information and how it happened, in that there's some people who are saying, oh, it wasn't released at the time, it was a cover-up, it was held back. What's your response to those trains of thought?
Yeah, I don't think that there was anything as far as intentionally holding it back. When something like that shows up, it's a joint effort on the school district and the police department to decide what type of information to get out and when to put that out. So my understanding of when that information came in, that press release was out fairly quickly the same day, listing what was on that bathroom wall, or that there was a threat of some kind on that bathroom wall. So, again, you're trying to mediate through what appears to be something that is just somebody writing on a wall, or is it a serious threat that somebody's going to carry out or intends to? The challenge for us is we're always going to err on the side of caution. We're going to try to mediate the threat and decide, is it valid? And one of the really great things is that we were able to determine who wrote that fairly quickly, within a day or so.
By the liaison officer and the information that you have from the kids?
Good police work, you bet. We need people to step up, give us tips, tell us if they know anything, because it could always lead to something. So it ended up a real heavy string of interviews, and ultimately 2 individuals confessed to it. So it's exactly how I want it to play out.
Well, as I said the other day on the program here, there's two, I'm nonchalant about it, and there are other people who are really uptight about the whole thing. Because when I was in school, that wasn't unusual. In the early 1970s, we had bomb threats. Now, this is a different day and age. You guys are sending the cavalry here because, as I said, if it was something and you didn't, everybody would be going, what are you doing? So you send everybody and try to sort it out, I guess.
With the recent activities that have been going on in the state and in the country with school shootings and other threats, I think it's way too dangerous to not do anything. We have to react.
I think people are getting twitchy, for a lack of a better term. I mean, or we could be desensitized to this. It just happens. That happens all the time. Or you get to the point where now every time somebody has a Nerf gun, dart gun, or whatever, and these kids could get hurt. You get something pointed at you, you don't identify it quickly enough, somebody's going to get hurt.
One of the general consensuses when you talk to, and I have a son in the high school, I think the students are getting sick of it, and they're getting worn down, and they're tired of people doing this. So, they're asking themselves, well, do I even want to go to school? What's next? This is getting ridiculous. So that's good to hear on the part of the students, that they're actually getting sick of this too. So hopefully this will stop.
Who's going to educate them about this? You, the school district, or the parents?
I think it takes a community to raise a child. We all have to work together to do that. I know our liaisons are working hard in that area with the school and the counselors and everybody. So I think it takes all of us.
The second note that was found, you said a moment ago that you don't know exactly when that may have happened. What I worry about, I think, or think about, I don't say I worry, is that there's copycat, where kids find this. If there isn't a punishment that's extraordinary of some kind, and you're talking felony charges against 17-year-old girls, I think that's pretty excessive. But on the other hand, there are parents who say, look, if you're just doing this and it's fun, like swatting, call 911 and see if everybody shows up with their armored vehicle. Well, boy, that's fun to watch. If you don't nip it in the bud, as they say, then there's going to be other people who want to try it. So you're kind of caught there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think departmentally we've got an obligation. Our role is to send the appropriate charge down. However excessive that may seem, now then the onus falls on the district attorney to decide where do we want to prosecute this, what's reasonable. Could they get convicted of felonies? Absolutely. Will they? That's going to be a decision that the district attorney is going to have to make at that point.
As far as you know, how long does he have before he has to
I don't believe he's under any set time.
Disclose charges.
Yeah, other than to work within the statute of limitations.
It's, and today, as we're talking here on Friday, there was also a story out of Stevens Point where a threat was made. And again, everybody sends the cavalry and we find out, and then we hear the stories about the kid who had a barbecue knife or a barbecue fork and he hit the, teacher or whatever on the side of the neck. And it's like, that's up close and personal. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not talking about having fun mass here. You're talking about mad kids that are just angry about something,
Well, that's the challenge, and I think that's a decision Nakusa had to make recently, along with Stevens Point, is when you look at closing a school, which could entirely be the right decision, are you telling other kids that this is a way to get out of school? And that's one of the more difficult parts is you don't want to overreact, but just as Jody said, you can't underreact. So, one, are you fueling the problem by shutting these schools down? Well, in essence, you have to, because you can't run the risk that something legitimate is going to come out of this threat. But conversely, how do we educate kids and say, look, there is going to be a repercussion, and that's exactly how you do it, because word spread fairly quickly through that high school that this is what happened to these 2 young girls. And we hope that's a deterrent. So I guess that'll remain to be seen.
Talking with Assistant Chief Pat Zepps and Lieutenant Jody Gehring here on today's Insight program on this second Friday of the month. You can join us if you're listening live on radio, 384-2191, 384-2191. We're not immune by any means to this kind of stuff happening around our area. And people sometimes get that when you watch it on TV that's somewhere else. And you guys, I know, train for just about everything. We have these kind of trainings at the schools.
Yep.
From time to time. You let everybody know that why there's a presence there, because otherwise some people think it's a real deal when you got a lot of police cars hovering around the high school. But you guys train for this kind of stuff and are trying to do the best that you can with it, and everybody has an opinion on, well, what are we going to do about this to keep it from happening? Because it's like these other false alarms, and who knows if it is or isn't. In the time we live in, we've seen some crazy things happen.
Yeah, we have to treat everyone as though it's real. We don't want to become complacent and think it's just a false alarm, because that's when you walk into the burglary or you walk into the active shooter and you're unprepared. So everyone has to be treated as though it's the real deal.
So you have a son at the high school, and Matt Barnes is the liaison?
Matt Barris. Yep.
Barris, excuse me. What's the feeling there amongst the kids? Like, as you said, the kids are kind of
it's interesting what it's doing is and I'll actually say this is a good thing, is it's fueling a lot of conversation about it with him. I'm picking him up and he's asking questions. Now I have some different insight just by virtue of where I work, but it really allows us to talk through this stuff, and you do get a sense that they're frustrated. They want it to stop because this is disruptive to them, and it's fear. It creates fear with them. It creates fear with the parents, and that alone is something that I don't think a kid may look down the road and see when they write this on a bathroom stall. It's really kind of a snowball effect from a law enforcement response to a school district response to creating fear with your classmates to creating fear with teachers and the community. Well, I can't definitively tell you that that's these 17-year-old girls consider that or not, but I think they're tired of it. They're really tired of the disruptions. They're tired of the messages, and they just want to get back to normal.
It's a time we live in where it is disrupting more so than when, and I said before, when I was in high school, there were threats like this, but it wasn't this massive of a response because it didn't seem like the society was having this watching shootings on TV every night or hearing about things that are happening in schools and going through drills. We had duck and cover. We didn't have shelter in place.
Right.
It's different in that way, and I have a hard time comparing it to anything that I know in this world today.
Yeah, I think with the constant reminder that these sorts of threats can actually happen, and right here in this area, we've had them as close as Anigo, and there's been all kinds of different reaction or evidence that these things can actually happen. I think that plays in part with what people are feeling when they have these threats.
So, what are we going to do?
Well, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. One of the things is it's education. And what I can tell you is, now that we've done all these school safety drills, there was some grant money that came out last year. Part of that was all the schools in the district had to engage in safety drills, lockdown drills. Well, the police department's role in that was to walk through and kind of assess how well that went. So we'd go through it during the lockdown, and we would look to see how did they do. And we're going to continue to practice those. We're going to continue to fine hone. And I'll tell you what, even from the standpoint of being a parent, it gave me great confidence to see how quickly the schools were able to get people in place, get people secured to try to prevent bad things from happening. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to sit here and say that as a police officer and a parent, I felt very confident about that. We had another incident the other morning where there was a lockdown that went into effect that was accidentally pulled at the high school. Those can be invaluable because they're not pre-planned, and that was
it a drill?
It was not. It initially went out as a drill, but what had happened is a key had been accidentally pressed, so the school went into a lockdown. They all believed it was a real scenario, so we can learn a great deal from that. And again, it gave me great confidence to see how well the teachers, the students, everybody reacted to that. So we're going to do our best to try to keep them safe. What we can do is be proactive. We can get people thinking in the mindset of what if, so that if something like this happens, they're not in so much shock that they can't react, because that's a big part of the problem, is processing what's going on. So when you hear something in the hallway, do you think it's somebody dropping a book? Does it sound like a firecracker? Or do you anticipate that it's something worse and try to take some steps to figure that out? There's no easy solution, but all we can do is keep moving forward with training and education.
What do you, as a parent, what do you think the parent's role is in something like this? Make it known that this is not to be trifled with, or?
I think that it would be a good idea for parents to learn as much as the children are. What actually happens in the lockdown, and what is what's expected of their child in these types of situations. Hopefully that we can gain support from the parents that this is the correct way to act. It's been proven to be the best way that we can react in those situations, and I think the more that they can educate themselves, the better it would be.
In talking with the kids, what's the message you want them to be?
We want to give them that survival mindset. We want to make sure that they understand why they're taking these steps during the lockdown drills, and what to do if those doors are breached, or if they come encounter with somebody that's, say, at an active shooting situation. Their life is on the line. They need to fight for it.
So do you, like in a school threat like this, it turned out thus far to be nothing. I don't know what the investigation is going to show, if there was ever any activity toward any of that which was written, or if there was just idle threat. But then the parents are going to be taken down, or I use the word takedown, but prosecuted as well, as something like that. If, in order to spur parents into being proactive from keeping their child to be one of those who becomes, we used to be a joker, and there's no joke anymore.
I guess with me being a parent as well, I've got a child in high school, and if she were faced with felony charges, I mean, it's a conversation we've had at home as well, that that's a very serious charge, and one that can follow you the rest of your life. I think that the school will follow through with their own type of sanctions as well. And I know that I've made it very clear what would happen at home too. So hopefully we can have, like I said, that community educate the children.
Yeah, I know I get back to it but I don't have else to draw for him. My dad would say, when he's done with you, then it's my turn.
You weren't afraid of the school. You were afraid of your parents.
Yeah.
Well, that was it. It was afraid of consequence. I mean, there was consequence to be had.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to disappoint. There was disappoint, all right,
Right.
Heat your seat.
Again, I was more afraid of my parents than I was of any police officer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to get it, so...
Talking to Assistant Chief Pat Zepps and Lieutenant Jody Gehring here of Marshfield PD on this edition of the Insight program, this second Friday in the month of December. You can join us here, 384-2191, 384-2191, talking about the situation at the high school here, a school threat this week. It's the talk of the town amongst parents and non-parents and grandparents alike, I guess, just trying to get a feel for what the kids are thinking. Why would you do this if you know that that's what's going to happen? And do they know what's going to happen? And how much is too much? Ruining some people's lives over a Sharpie on a bathroom wall.
That's certainly one of the reactions out there, is that maybe this is an overreaction to charge two girls with a felony. And again, I don't know what the end result of those charges will be. Our role is to send the appropriate charge down there, because if we get into the role of mediating, sending a lesser charge, I don't think we've done our job. I think we've got to assess what happened, pick the appropriate charge, and send that. And then at that point, the wheels of justice start to turn as far as, okay, what really should the outcome of these charges be? And again, we don't know what that's going to be. That's going to be a decision for the district attorney to make. And either way, I think these girls are going to come out much better for the wiser. And again, people may think that that's an overreaction, but again, we're not going to run the risk of an underreaction.
You're watching this, you may already have understood some of the things have resolved themselves here. I say that because as the time that we're airing this program here and this being recorded for video, obviously we don't know how things are going to turn out. You may know that by the time that you view this, so we have to try to keep in mind here that you may know things that we don't as we're talking here on this second Friday in the month of December. You can join us, 384-2191, 384-2191 here on today's Insight program. Your friends at Mackey Farm Services in Curtis and Edgar sincerely believe no Christmas season is complete without recognition of those who make each succeeding Christmas more of a success than the one before, their customers. They hope that happiness finds you and your day is filled with all the good things Christmas brings. A Merry Christmas from Mackey Farm Services in Curtis and Edgar.
Do your Christmas shopping at the Sports Scene inside the Marshfield Mall. The Sports Scene has unique clothing and caps for all your favorite teams. NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and more. They have autographed sports memorabilia, helmets, plaques, collectibles, and sports cards too. Find that one-of-a-kind item for the sports fan on your list this Christmas. Go now to the Sports Scene inside the Marshfield Mall.
WDLB's Inside program here this second Friday in December. You know that if you are listening to us live here on the Inside program, you may be watching us on Marshfield Media Access, their Facebook page, or on their web page as well. You can watch the program. We are availing themselves, or to you, I guess, the Marshfield Police Department today, Pat Zepps and Jody Garink in here to talk. We talked about the biggest talk of the town here for this week. It's funny because you think that last a while, but you know, there's something. The news cycle moves on, and what's the newest thing that happened? Hopefully it's nothing along those lines that require anything.
Right.
But well, there's the national news is porch pirates and scams. People who are just trying to take people for a scam, and we're no different here in the community. Have you had much uptick here in the past month or so?
Yeah, we get those all the time, and those are another tough one. A lot of times those calls they're coming from an unknown source, and I've actually personally gotten them on my office phone at work. Somebody saying they were from the IRS, and I asked to speak to their supervisor, and kind of probed into a little bit, and I might have touched on this last time I was here. It resulted in a profanity-laden tirade towards me, so, it is what it is. All we can tell people is don't give any personal information over the phone. That's normally what they're targeting. If they make 500 calls in a day and one person gives them what they're looking for, it's a profitable day for them, so don't give them anything.
And watching, as we're talking here today, I was watching the Ring, or the security cameras now. People are being able to hack into those.
Yeah.
And what they think they've determined is that when you had all those identity thefts that happened in the millions that were compromised, they got some passwords along the way. And those passwords people tend to reuse. I mean, how many can you remember?
Right.
XY/4, big H, little Q. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. So you use things like, your puppy dog's name with a 1 behind it or something. And so they've got that, and that's how they've been able to access some of this stuff. But it's right in your house, I mean, you got a security cam, and that now made you unsecure.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of news programs
in the little girl's bedroom.
Yeah.
That's one of the creepiest things I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Santa.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's looking around going, maybe it is.
Yeah. Where's that coming from?
Right.
But it can happen here, anywhere, and that's...
and to my knowledge, it hasn't yet. I know that the Ring doorbell it's a great piece of equipment. It's helped us in several different types of cases, to include the stealing the Amazon package porches and things like that. So hopefully they can get their security back up and running, because it's been a phenomenal tool for us to use that Ring doorbell.
That brings up one of the tips that they give you from the Better Business Bureau is have it either delivered to your work address or have it delivered to a neighbor who's
home, or
to your office. I mean, drop it off in the front and I'll come pick it up after work or something. Is that a viable solution?
Sure. If your place of employment allows that, or you've got a neighbor that's willing to help, the less the amount of time that your package is left unattended, the better. You'll be able to have it.
And I know that I see the signs in front of the law enforcement building where you work that you can have that as an exchange area for buying things online. Comfortable.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great resource too. It just makes people feel a little safer. when they sell something on, stuff for sale in Marshfield or something to that effect. So we'd give them that spot. They can come, and it's a pretty safe spot if you're going to pick one.
I noticed that a lot of these have, the Target in back of the radio station, they have signs up that said you're being monitored, cameras in place. So if you're in a public place where you can do that, then you have the resources as law enforcement to go back and try to get any recordings of around that time period if anything were to happen.
Yeah, most of the businesses work really well with us in those types of situations, and they're enriching the community too, and they want to help out when they can. So if you're buying stuff through any of these sites, that it'd be great to meet in a public place or right at the police department. It's a good, safe way to do it.
If someone did snatch a package off my porch, where would I tell you first? The police department?
Yep. If you live in the city, go ahead and give us a call, and we'll come down and take a report and get as much information as we can. Those cases are often difficult to solve, but not impossible. So
probably won't be resolved, but you can see a pattern, or.
Yeah, a lot of times a pattern will show up, and over the course of my career, people may get discouraged if they have something stolen and months go by, but ultimately, in a lot of cases, we'll find somebody and be able to trace them back to several of them. So there's never really a loss of hope, and most people who do that don't typically do it once. They get a taste for it. They're going to do it till they get caught. So there's always hope that we could turn that back. So don't ever think that it's a waste of our time to give us a call and make that report.
Yeah, people snatching packages off the porch, but it's unfortunately, pennies went out belly up, so we can't go down there and pick it up anymore. That was a solution we had years ago.
Yeah.
We go to the store and pick it up, but now when people are taking it off the porch, and just like you said, more of a fun thing, I think, than who knows what's in the box. Why do you even want it?
Yeah.
Well, there's
might be a fruitcake. Nobody
there's
wants
something
that.
on Facebook now that says if you want to get rid of your old junk, put it in a Amazon package on your front porch. So
I didn't know what to do with it. Stick my garbage in
put it
there.
in
Well, yeah, I
Amazon
might have a
box.
fruitcake I want to get rid of, so that works both ways, you see. My apologies to anybody who likes that.
Talking with Pat Zepps, Jody Gehring here from Marshfield Police Department. You can too, live on AM 1450 WDLB. And talking about this time of the year, the porch pirates is not something that happens just anywhere, other places, as we like to say here. We're pretty trusting community, most of all. I wouldn't be surprised if I couldn't find anybody somewhere in the office that left their door open when they go to work. We just don't think about being that kind of person, and so you don't think other people will be that to you.
Yeah, I've always touted. There's a lot of people who don't lock their car doors. It's a very simple thing you can do that can deter a lot of crime, because even in the summer months, we'll have individuals walking through the city just pulling car doors till they find an open one. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to curb that crime is just lock your door. It's very simple. Same thing with front doors. Believe it or not, it's been a while, but we have had rashes of residential burglaries in the city. So it can happen, and the best thing you can do is take steps to just deter people. Make them move on and find the easier target.
Well, at least they'll hopefully be smart enough to know that in the summertime you can't track them in the snow.
we got to get the hounds out then.
Yes, you need a bloodhound.
Yeah,
right.
And speaking of that, though, this is the Christmas season. You do have stuffed animals
We did,
for sale.
yeah. We just posted this morning. I posted this morning. We've got them available right at the police department, and they're $15 a piece, and all the proceeds go to our canine program, which is a great program for us.
So
and Jody actually spearheads that. So
it looks like a little police dog, huh?
Yeah, they're replicas of our dogs. So
Do you have one? Are you one of the canine officers?
I just oversee the program, but our two canine officers are Sam Fox and Chris Haas. We've got Sam has Rika and Chris has Steffi. So.
Is that something that you try to keep one on duty at all times, or are they just on constant call?
We try to keep them, they have a regular work schedule, so they're on duty, I'd say, most of the time. We rotate them between the 4 shifts in a cycle, so it's always a guess when they're working.
Well, if I have a fender bender and he rolls up and that dog's going crazy in the back seat, I'm get kind of nervous back there.
And they do. They do like to bark.
we got to keep you in line, though, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any of him. Can you please send a different car?
It can be intimidating.
Yeah, he's going crazy back there, and I'm not guilty of anything. I'm ready to confess, but leave him in there. So you can pick those up, those stuffed animals, where?
Yep, if you come to the police department during our normal business hours, like 8 to 4, you'll be able to buy them right at the front desk there.
Okay. So it's a nice, unique little gift, and you've raised some pretty good. It's been pretty successful for you.
Yeah, they have helped. They were more successful last year, but now this year we have Rika. She was not with us last year at Christmas time, so we edition. So that doll hasn't been sold out yet.
What does that cost to run this program?
The overall cost of the canine?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of it is dependent on when we need one. The big cost comes in training an officer. So when we have a canine roll over, the two of the biggest costs are, one, training the officer, because how many weeks is that down there?
I want to say it's 6 weeks.
6 weeks down in Indiana with the school we use. And then another significant cost is setting up a canine squad as we roll our squads over. So that's two of the bigger costs.
They have equipment, vehicles then that are set up for that, and that's just their vehicle. Then you don't.
Yeah, the vehicle goes with the dog. So there's a cage in the back there, and it does have some equipment that's unique to them, where they can open up the rear door so that the dog can come out if they need to without the officer opening up the door, and those sorts of things. It's got some safety equipment in there for the dog, to control the temperature and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. In the summertime, it'd be hot in there otherwise, or.
Yep.
Wintertime, usually you're keeping it warm for yourself.
Usually not a huge issue in the wintertime.
No.
Summertime can be pretty challenging.
Talking with Lieutenant Jody Gehring, Assistant Chief Pat Zepps here on today's program. You can too, live on AM 1450 WDLB this second Friday in December at 384-2191, 384-2191. I noticed that on the website, on your Facebook page, you posted something about an app that was called Nextdoor. And you're getting people who are wondering if that's real.
Yeah, I actually got one of those myself too, and looking into it, we believe it's a legitimate service. Or
how did you get it? Was it mailed to you? Or?
Yeah, it was just in my mailbox. So it was had said my street name and everybody on there. And again, kind of our stance is some people think that might be a scam. To the best of our knowledge, it's not. It's a legitimate information sharing network, and just do your homework and decide if it's something that you want to be a part of or not. But even in the future, even if you get anything like that, don't hesitate to give us a call. We'll help you walk through to determine if it's legitimate or not.
So what does that do? Is it a security thing, or is it just
Well, I think it's my limited knowledge of it is you become part of a group where you're specific to that street, and then you can share information on services, things going on in the neighborhood, kind of like a mini social group is my understanding of what that is.
It's called Nextdoor, and it's for you and your neighbors to have a site or a hub to talk to one another. Isn't it odd? My parents would never. Why do you need that? I just saw them able at the store. Well, now nobody does that. They have their groceries shipped home.
Yeah.
You never have to leave home and drop ship all your stuff that used to go to the Pennies and the Kmart and see people. And
the day-to-day face-to-face contact is becoming less and less, it seems. So.
And I think that's why we're so twitchy too.
Could be.
If you actually met somebody and had to talk to them the way we are now, you'd probably have a different opinion.
Maybe.
But when you just see the text of what they said, you draw conclusions of what they mean.
And it's always easier to type and send something, that you may not necessarily say to a person either. We found that a lot. So,
how much time do you find with social media threats or online threats or stuff like that? On the police blotter, I'll see that once in a while where.
Yeah, I don't think it's been as bad recently, but we do go in spurts, it seems, where we have a bunch of social media things, and there's really not, depending on what's said in social media, there's not oftentimes a lot of things that we can really do with them. If something is directly threatening to you or something like that, we can react, but oftentimes people want to report when they were called a name or said something that they didn't feel was true, and there's not a lot that we can do with those types of situations on social media.
From what I can see on the printed media reports of the police blotter stuff, it's a lot of what we would call domestic, where people get into a shouting match, and either the neighbor calls you or one of them calls you and doesn't feel safe in their environment, and then it's usually okay, you go to this corner, you go to that corner, you got a no contact
Right.
order now, and stay the heck away from each other.
Yeah, and I've been here for a little over 21 years now, and I think that it's been consistent throughout the 21 years that families are going to fight, and when we get called, it's it's the domestic. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's changed much in the time that I've been here, unfortunately.
I've made that comment before. I think a lot of your job is either traffic or domestic. It's one of those two is probably 85% of your time.
Yeah, it's mediating problems. And, a lot of people always said, hey, I'm sorry we had to call you, or I don't want this to be a waste of your time. But, my response has always been, hey, if we can come and help you mediate through something before it turns worse than it already is, that's what we're here for. We don't have a problem with that. So, things start to get heated and elevated. Hey, we all, people get there in the holidays or whatever. Give us a call if something's not right. We're happy to give whatever assistance we can before it turns into something where somebody's got to get arrested. There's many times that we go and it's just a matter of helping the parties separate. Say, hey, let's let cooler heads prevail. A lot of times coming in from the outside, you can give them that advice. And there are many domestic situations that we're called to that don't result in arrest because they don't rise to that level. But at the same time, we were able to help before it did rise to that level. So,
and in those situations, we can also provide them with some resources, with personal development center and those sorts of things, to where we can help so that they can make their life at home better.
Get some gloves from the Gus Gym here, and you go out in the yard and do this. Don't be knocking each other's furniture and the neighbor's stuff over.
Just get a referee.
Again, that's back to the old days, though, right?
Yeah, you do that now, you'll be in a lot of hot water. You'll be on Inside Edition after that. Talking with Assistant Chief Pat Zepps and Lieutenant Jody Gehring here from Marshfield PD. You can too. 384-2191, 384-2191. We talked about the school threat earlier in the program. We did problems that they have and the uptick in business, shall we say, for their department with the weather that we've been having and things like that. We talked about scams and porch pirates and all kinds of things. The Nextdoor app and the Ring and those kind of things that have been happening where people get hacked, and it doesn't matter where you are because there's millions of those compromised identities, through the Experian or whichever one was hacked, and it's out there. Yep. I didn't do anything. I don't even know they've got my stuff until they use it.
Right.
And then it's too late. But I've talked to the chief before, and people will call and say, I'm getting calls. And that's all you, why don't you stop them? I said, well, they haven't committed anything yet.
Right.
But we're talking about domestics, and you get called to a person's house, and so far they've just kind of pushing a little bit and hollering, and one of them's inebriated. So can you arrest somebody in their own home for public drunkenness? Or
no, but with a domestic, if there's two adults that have ever lived together and they become involved in an argument or altercation that just becomes threatening, that's when those elements of an arrest have been made. So the fact that they're intoxicated doesn't play into the actual elements for that or typical arrest, but certainly a contributing factor in many cases.
It doesn't tend to help the situation.
Right.
Well, I just wondered if you could haul somebody out of their house. It sounds kind of un-American. We like to think we've got the freedoms, but...
No, you can't really, unless you've got cause to arrest them, we can't force anybody to leave. So even if we show up and deem the best course of action is for the two parties to separate, we can't force them to do that. Mm-hmm. All we can do is suggest it and say, look, this is what potentially could happen if you decide not to do this for tonight. We're going to get called back, because a lot of times, and this is where the community steps up, when somebody hears that, and they call us, when they hear the shouting match next door or upstairs or wherever that may be. So again, we can't haul somebody out unless they're under arrest. We can just make some strong recommendations that, look, if you don't do this, good chance this isn't going to get any better tonight, so let's let cooler heads prevail. Hopefully they take the advice.
All right, 384-2191 is our number here, 384-2191 here on today's Insight program, the second Friday in the month of December. You can give us a call and talk with Marshfield PD Assistant Chief Pat Zepps and Lieutenant Jody Gehring here. We're here today with Dr. Ben Solheim, Doctor of Physical Therapy and co-owner of Health in Motion Physical Therapy. Now, Health in Motion is the one located at 204 North Central Avenue here in Marshfield. It's the same building as Total Body Fitness and kind of kitty corner from St. Vincent de Paul on Central and Arnold. Today we're talking about direct access to physical therapy. Ben, can you tell me what direct access means?
Well, Jeff, what that means is you can come directly to Health in Motion without the need for a referral, and your insurance still covers it. There's a handful of insurance companies who still require a referral, but in that case, we meet, do a consultation, and our office will contact your provider if a referral is needed. There's so many benefits coming directly to us for care versus taking the typical route. I mean, typically after an injury or when you're in pain, you would first go to the walk-in or your primary care doctor or emergency room, and they might send you to a specialist for imaging, then back to the doctor who will finally end up referring you to physical therapy. But by coming directly, you save a lot of time and money, but most importantly, we get to treatment right away, and you on the road to recovery sooner. We offer a free 15-minute screen at no cost to you, so you can come in, meet a doctor, and see how we can help.
So what sort of things would I come in to you for at Health in Motion?
Well, I think many people will be surprised by how many of the things we treat as physical therapists. It could be a back issue, a rotator cuff problem, twist ankle or knee, balance issues, arthritis, migraines, jaw problems, or even vertigo or dizziness. Really, we treat anything that deals with the musculoskeletal conditions.
Oh, I'd never thought of physical therapy for so many issues.
Well, yeah, I mean, so many people think we only treat injuries or post-surgical conditions, but there's so much more that we can do and have treated and changing the course of many patients' futures.
So I can come directly to you for pain without all the middlemen and get right into treatment, therefore on the road to recovery right away, huh?
That's absolutely right. And all you need to do is call Health in Motion Physical Therapy at 715-898-1600 and schedule a 15-minute screen today or your first initial evaluation. We'll have you meet with one of our docs of physical therapy, and together we can help make the best choice for you if it's that 15-minute screen, whether it's self-care, seeing a different type of provider, or a PT plan of care. So just be sure to call Health in Motion today at 715-898-1600 and schedule a free 15-minute screen or your eval.
Talking with Ben Solheim, Doctor of Physical Therapy and co-owner of Health in Motion Physical Therapy on Central and Arnold in Marshfield. WDLB's Inside Program on this second Friday of the month of December here. We're willing to talk to you or hear from you. We're talking with Marshfield PD, Assistant Chief Pat Zepps and Lieutenant Jody Garrington here to talk with us. Good morning. You're on the Inside Program.
Good morning there. Hi, my name is Matt, calling from the Marshfield area. I guess I got a question that's related to the CBD oil and the usage of it. I'm just wondering, obviously it's being sold, but I was told that it does have a percentage of 1 to 2% of THC product in it. I was just wondering, from the cop's perspective and a person's rights, I guess what are the rights of a person if, say, they get caught with it in a vehicle with the presence of the THC, and what is the laws behind that, and what is the Marshfield PD or police in general doing to educate people about what their rights are and what have you? I guess that's what I'm trying to find out, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, that's a great question, and the amount of THC in the CBD oil is so minimum that it doesn't rise to the level that anybody's going to be able to feel some sort of a high effect from it. So we're kind of an island here with how things are going across the nation as far as legalizing this. So really we're operating under, if we have reason to believe that you're in possession of THC, outside of the THC oil, generally we're not gonna hit on. We're not gonna be able to smell that because there's just not enough in there. It's similar to the industrial hemp. So as of right now in the state of Wisconsin, we're still operating under reasonable suspicion for a stop. We still need probable cause to arrest somebody for possession of THC. CBD oil is generally not going to rise to that level if you had cases upon cases of this stuff enough that it could be smelled or something to that effect. Well, then that could rise to the level, but again, there's an investigative process that has to happen. So, unfortunately, there's not really an easy answer for you right now because, across the nation, this is so new for everybody, and the states are working it out. But generally, levels of CBD oil aren't going to result in anything other than you having the CBD oil.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks for the call. 384-2191 is our number here. 384-2191. Have you confiscated many or any vaping cartridges in your apartment?
Yeah, as a department, we have confiscated some that had the THC in it. It's in the area.
Yeah, that's really, like I always say, not here. Well, yeah.
It's here.
Yeah, it's here. What about the drug issue that we've had? It's I haven't heard a lot of high-profile busts or opioid or meth, or what's the trend here now?
Well, we're always going to have drugs. We have all of those here in Marshfield, obviously. We went through a heroin epidemic and probably still going through, but it seems as though that it's become less. We don't have the number of overdoses that we had in the past, and it seems as though that trend is going down. Meth seems to be rising again. So I think that it just ebbs and flows as we go through time here.
I never thought of those two as synonymous. It always amazes me.
It always surprises me too. Yeah.
Because they're not the same reaction to either one of those. But
Right.
I guess if you want to get euphoria, you'll,
Yeah.
picking the wildwood flower or whatever you got to do there.
Or make it in a lab. That's
Yeah.
that's what they're doing with the meth. So that's a tough one.
Most of it is being brought in. You're not finding. I haven't heard anything about manufacturers much in.
Once in a while you hear about a cook, but yeah, most of the stuff I think is being bought.
Yeah, it's brought into the area from down south
Right.
or out west.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff's being made out in the sticks too. Generally, people who are cooking meth, there's a lot of things that come with it as far as the way it smells and things like that. So you're finding a lot in rural areas. I know for a long time Iowa was just plagued with meth labs just because of how rural it was. So, so you don't see them as much in the city, and a lot of times when you do, they're often low key. It's somebody doing something in their kitchen, but dangerous stuff.
Yeah. So we're not immune to any of that kind of stuff either, for that matter. Beginning of the program here, we talked about this time of the year and the weather that we're experiencing and the fender benders in the first round of what I thought was first of freezing rain and then snow over the top of it. Turned out to be a real problem. But this time of the year is supposed to be, what's the song, most wonderful time of the year, and you guys feeling charitable as well, I understand, from your program that you put together. Tell me about what you've been doing.
Yeah, had a couple things go on this month. One of the things we did is a annual community appreciation event. And we've been holding that in conjunction with the wine walk downtown. And really all we do is grab a big grill.
Oh, you guys are just spying, that's all. You just want to be down there
We
where
just
the
got to
action
see who's doing what now. Well, we got that. We were able to get that open intox law relaxed. So we got to make sure it will give you a hamburger if you stick to within the law.
Right.
So, it's mutually beneficial here.
I see.
But yeah, we go down, we set up. Hewitt's been a great partner with us, borrows us a grill. We get the meat from there, and we grill up hot dogs and hamburgers and hand them out to the people on the wine walk or anybody else who walks by. You don't have to be on the wine walk at all.
Right.
Free of charge. It's just our way to say thanks for a great supportive community.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I mean, it wasn't too bad of weather.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. They set us up inside the Blodgett house, so we were warm. And
Your smoky grill in there? Oh,
no, that was out on the.
Oh.
That Pat and Rick had to sit outside in the cold, and the rest of us were warm and
Drinking hot apple cider. And how many hot dogs did you eat, Jody?
Quite a few. I actually had to take a layer of clothing off. It was getting too hot. So
Oh, boy, you guys are twisting the knife here now. But there was also a way that, I don't know where the funds came from, but you helped with Christmas gifts.
Yeah, we did. We had our annual Shop with a Cop. That's been just a great event. 3 local stores donated. Walmart, Target, and Fleet Farm all donated towards that program, and then our Marshfield Professional Police Association donated some money for that as well. And then Scotty's Pizza picked up donating some pizzas for the kids and the officers afterwards. So
yeah, our PSLO, Julie Liu, did a lot of work with that, and she was really invested in it. Did a great job.
Well, see, that's one of those things like with Toys for Tots. I know where the drop-off is, but I never know how you get involved if I know somebody who needs something, on your radar. How do I get involved in something like that?
and a lot of that came from Julie Liu just working with the schools to identify, children who could really benefit from this. For whatever reasons, they're not quite as much there for Christmas gifts. And the really neat part about Shop with a Cop is that, they're allocated an amount of money. Half of the money they can spend on themselves, but then half they have to spend on Christmas gifts for family members. So I helped with that last night, and again, Julie Liu did a great job. Julie Liu Martinic.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun to watch these kids go through and pick things out for their moms and brothers and aunts and all that stuff. So really, really fun event.
Gets a chance to humanize you a little bit, I mean, I've talked at length about this, but with law enforcement between the sheriff's department and the police department, and you get a little jaded, you get a little sour after a while dealing with the public. All you got to do is be in the public, and you're tired of them. Just sitting at the fair watching, and you're going, yikes.
I also need to give a shout out to Marshfield Bus Service for donating a school bus, and a driver who gave his own time to come and pick everybody up at the police department, all the kids and all the officers, which I'll say was probably one of the more fun parts is when you had all these kids and officers on a school bus, because we all go back to our school bus days and all the fun stuff that happens on school buses.
Oh, you guys aren't spitballing, are you, again?
No, there might have been some energy drinks drank, though, that kind of got the kids a little keyed up. But
Yeah, and then you send him home.
well, I know. I said, "Are you sure that's the best thing to buy?" Oh, whatever. So that stuff's going to light you up, well, they drank it.
Yeah, I'll bet.
We didn't provide it.
Talking with Pat Zepps and Jody Gehring here from Marshfield PD, winding our time down here on this second Friday in the month of December, talking about the time of the year when you get to humanize the situation a little bit. There are those who are you involved in any of the click it or ticket added enforcement, or is that just Wood County Sheriff? They put out a press release on that.
I think we got a grant right now for click it or ticket as well.
How is that used? I mean, what does that provide for officer time, wages, or?
Well, the click it or ticket doesn't. That's an incentive that we have, and we don't typically pay overtime for that. But the incentive lies that the state, if you participate, you become part of a drawing to where you can actually receive X number of dollars to purchase on things designed towards traffic safety. So, for instance, on our last click it or ticket round, the Marshfield Police Department received a $4,000 grant. So we're looking at purchasing some LiDAR equipment, which is similar to a radar for traffic enforcement. So that's one of the benefits. It benefits the community because we can get a relatively decent piece of equipment that doesn't come out of taxpayer money. So that's the benefit. It also, it gets officers out there, enforcing seatbelts, which, some people like it, some don't, but it's important in safety. So benefits all across the board.
There's also the Don't Drink and Drive campaign. I think the Sheriff's Department put out a message that they're going to be adding enforcement. I guess that's what you do, right? I mean, or you just more picky on who you pull over, or what do you do in those kind of cases?
Yeah, and it just kind of depends on how the grant works. In that case, again, they're looking for stepped-up enforcement in that area. There are task force grants that we take part in that are county-based. So, for instance, the last 2 years, we've taken place with the Marathon County Task Force grant and a Wood County Task Force grant, where the grant actually allocates for overtime money. So we're putting extra police officers on the streets. So it really just depends on how the grant's set up. And a lot of your drive sober or get pulled over and your click it or tickets, we're shifting more focus towards those offenses that might result in us getting those grant dollars to be used on equipment such, or something to that effect.
It has nothing to do with how many stops you actually make or how much money you take in from.
We keep track of the amount of stops, but yeah, the grant doesn't say you have to have so many stops in order to get the money.
See, there's that quota thing that everybody always says. Oh, the cops always got quotas.
Yeah.
You didn't make enough stops this month, somebody will say that to you, and I'm sure that's always makes officer friendly not so friendly anymore.
We've enjoy your flat screen TV. Heard that a few times. Well, I didn't get one. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming in here and talking with us. And if you're watching us on Marshfield Media Access, the video here, this is the second Friday in the month of December. And Merry Christmas to you and the department, and many safe travels.
Well, thank you. You
thanks
too.
for having us.
Here on AM 1450 WDLB's Insight program.